Hi guys, day 8, 12th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 8 maids a milking. I had to look that up. So, we're going to talk about, again, trusty notebook. So, the beginning of this journey was for me having a stroke, small stroke on the right side of my brain affecting the left side of my body, and also being told, oh yeah, by the way, you've got high blood pressure as well. So I've had a look at some 8 things that are risk factors for high blood pressure. Now the thing about a risk factor is it's something that points in the direction of, but it's not like you say, oh, I've got a risk factor, therefore I've got X, Y, and Z. These are things that you can be aware of and do things to avoid. Remember, informed is armed. So these are 8 things that might be in your life that might be a risk factor for high blood pressure. I keep banging on about high blood pressure because of the fact that it is a condition that often doesn't have a lot of symptoms, and not knowing in this sort of situation what you don't know can hurt you. So number 1, family history. If you've got high blood pressure in your family, then it increases the risk that you are going to have to deal with high blood pressure. It's just something to be aware of. Those of us who might be adopted might not know, but if you do know, then ask. And if you've never had that conversation with your parents, ask. Number 2 is age. The risk of high blood pressure increases as you get older. Number 2 is gender. So men up until the age of 65 have an increased risk of high blood pressure, and women over 65, don't know why that is. Race. So specifically, black people or black and minority ethnic people have an increased prevalence of high blood pressure. Another one is CKD. CKD stands for chronic kidney disease. Chronic kidney disease, again, is interesting because it is another condition that can develop again over a long period of time, and it often doesn't have a lot of symptoms. I see a lot of people in hospital, they've got a problem today, and as a consequence of their kidney problems, it limits the treatment that I can give. And quite a lot of them, I'll say, okay, you've got this problem, maybe heart failure, and I'll say, okay, and your kidneys haven't been great for some time. And to a lot of people, it's a surprise. So going back to informed is armed, I think, as we're becoming a more mature, inquisitive, informed society, when somebody tells you, oh no, it's fine, blood pressure's fine, your kidney function's fine, I really encourage you to inform yourself with what the actual numbers are. Now, the person you're asking may not be too comfortable with letting you know, but I would always push and say, what are the actual numbers? Because if you speak to somebody like me, telling me, oh, I spoke to my GP and said my blood pressure is fine. As a doctor, I am interested in the numbers. When I speak to my doctor, I'm asking for the actual numbers because I'm interested in the detail. But I think we can be more informed about these things, and the numbers matter. Number 6, inactivity. Living a sedentary life increases your risk of high blood pressure. Number 7 is an unhealthy diet. So I have bunched a lot of things together in these ones. These are technically individual ones on their own, but today's is day, so I wanted to talk about them together. So unhealthy diet, especially foods rich in sodium. Unhealthy diet can often lead to obesity. Obesity itself is an independent risk factor for high blood pressure. Diabetes, because I think it's obesity, type 2 diabetes, and diabetes itself is an independent risk factor for high blood pressure. And sleep apnea. If you are overweight and you snore, then you increase your risk of sleep apnea. That sleep apnea itself is an independent risk factor for high blood pressure. So if you have these things, you might want to think about what can I do to mitigate. Number 8 is some behavioral things, modifiable things, excuse me, smoking and drinking. Excessive alcohol increases your risk of high blood pressure, and smoking does as well. So, family history, age, gender, race, chronic kidney disease, inactivity, unhealthy diet / obesity / diabetes / sleep apnea, and alcohol and smoking. These are 8 things that just take inventory of your life, and informed is armed. Knowing these are issues it's better to have the information so you can do something about it. Do some exercise, lose some weight, change your diet. All these things will reduce the risk of high blood pressure. Now, again, from a faith point of view, the 8 maids of milking pertain to the beatitudes found in Matthew chapter 5. So, number 1, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. I think when it says poor there, it's talking about those who are, the definition I saw was devoid of spiritual arrogance. And again, so, I've said this in a few videos. Every single one of these risk factors and every single one of these beatitudes could be a video on itself. So I'm just giving you the bullet points because, again, you are smart, intelligent, and you know where to go and find good information. Number 2 is blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Now, there's 2 ways to look at this. So my father went to be with the Lord this year. So we have mourned as a family. We're still mourning. So there's, on face value, blessed are those who mourn because they will be comforted, and I'm holding on to that. But another way of looking at it is blessed are those who mourn, and again, digging deeper into the language, it's mourn as a consequence of an acknowledgement of where I am in the context of my behavior, my sin, and things that separate me from God, and as a consequence of that knowledge, repenting, not just being sorry, being sorry and turning away from the thing. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Now, people often hear meek and I think they think weak, but the way that I define weak is strength under control. So not somebody who's feeble that you can push over, but somebody who knows their worth, knows their strength, and isn't flaunting it and shoving it in people's faces. For they will see they inherit the kingdom of God. Number 4, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. So righteousness being the right standing with God. So it's like in the context of like law, being a law-abiding citizen, you're on the right side of the law. So righteousness is on being on the right side of God, and hungering and thirsting for it, really wanting it. God says, you're blessed if you do that because I will fill you. There's another place in the Bible that God says, open your mouth wide and I will fill it. So 5 is blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. I find this really interesting because quite often, we're very quick to judge and think just as human nature. And I think it's Pastor John Gray and somebody else say this, that we are quick to show mercy or grace for somebody who messes up in the same way that we mess up. So if my thing is, I just can't stop eating cakes, or I just can't stop drinking alcohol or whatever. If I see somebody who does the same thing that I do, for that person, I have mercy, I have peace, I have grace, excuse me. But quite often we're not so merciful or gracious to the person who his proclivities and who's bent in things that God wouldn't approve is different to ours, and it's something that we have to be conscious of. Number 6 is blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. So purity in this context, we're talking about integrity, moral courage, and godly character. So number 7, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the sons of God. I think there are so many situations in life that it is possible to seek to be a peacemaker. Sometimes at work, I might see 2 people from different departments having an unnecessarily fraught conversation, having to stand in between and say, well, this person means this and this person means that. Or, I also have a saying: you can't argue with somebody who doesn't want to argue. So again, at work, I find it interesting that there are so many unnecessarily tense conversations when we're supposed to be on the same team, heading in the same direction, and I can be a peacemaker in that situation by not engaging in an argument. So if that person I'm speaking to ramps up what they're doing and I ramp up what I'm doing, then we're gonna argue. But if you're shouting and I'm not shouting, then I can be a peacemaker in a situation, because it's very hard to argue with somebody who's not arguing with you. Number 8, blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. I've kind of touched on this on another video. So again, persecuted for righteousness' sake. Jesus said, blessed are you if you are persecuted for my sake. Not persecuted because you have bad character, so you arrive late, you leave early, you take extra long breaks, you are manipulative, you are you do things that can give people a legitimate cause to say, what are you doing? That's not what the Bible's talking about. It's talking about for the sake of making a stand for righteousness, standing up for what you believe in, and you're persecuted for that, then you're blessed. So day 8, 12 days of Christmas, and not long to go. I mean, some of this stuff I found really quite interesting. I hope you found these things interesting as well. Please like, please share, please follow, and again, please comment. Let's go on a journey together. Tell me which one of these things you think, from a health point of view, you might not have thought about before, or from a faith point of view, that at least it made you think.